Professor Jin Ho Park sat at his desk in the Earth's Historical Amusement Engineering Institute, looking through old photographs of roller coasters. The afternoon sun made the dust particles dance in the air as he studied a picture from the year 1900. His office walls were covered with drawings of famous rides from all over the world. The professor was writing in his notebook when his computer screen lit up with an unusual message. Someone wanted to meet with him right away. This was strange because he didn't have any meetings planned for today. The message came from a name he had never seen before, Dal-Lee. "Come in," Professor Park called out when he heard a soft knock on his door. What he saw next made him drop his pen. A tall figure stepped into his office. It looked almost human, but its skin had a slight blue color, and its eyes were bigger than normal. The visitor wore what looked like a formal suit, but the material seemed to change colors as it moved. "Hello, Professor Park," the visitor said in perfect English. "I am Dal-Lee from the Centauri Alliance. We have been watching Earth for some time, and we find something about your species very interesting." Professor Park tried to stay calm, even though his heart was beating fast. He had heard about aliens making contact with Earth's governments, but he never expected to meet one, especially not in his office. "What interests you about us?" he asked, offering Dal-Lee a chair. The alien sat down carefully and pulled out a small device. When Dal-Lee pressed a button, a 3D image appeared in the air. It showed people on a roller coaster, their hands in the air, laughing as they went down a steep drop. "This," Dal-Lee said, pointing to the image. "In all our travels across the galaxy, we have never seen any other species create machines for the purpose of controlled fear and excitement. Your roller coasters are unique in the entire known universe." Professor Park couldn't help but smile. Of all the things aliens might find interesting about humans, he never thought it would be roller coasters. "We have studied thousands of civilizations," Dal-Lee continued, "but only humans have taken the concept of falling and turned it into entertainment. Other species either avoid such sensations completely or consider them too dangerous." The professor walked to his wall of pictures and touched an old photograph. "We've been building these rides for hundreds of years," he explained. "It started with ice slides in Russia in the 1600s. People would climb up stairs to slide down hills of packed snow. Over time, we made them safer and more exciting." Dal-Lee's eyes seemed to sparkle with interest. "That's exactly why I'm here, Professor. The Centauri Alliance would like to learn more about this unique human invention. We believe roller coasters could help different species understand each other better." Professor Park sat back down, his mind racing with possibilities. "What exactly are you proposing?" "We want you to share your knowledge with the galaxy," Dal-Lee said. "Would you be willing to teach other species about the history and science of roller coasters? We think it could be the beginning of something wonderful." The professor looked at his life's work on the walls around him. All those years studying the history of rides and thrills could now help bring different species together. He thought about his young assistant, Era Kim, who would be perfect to help with this project. "Yes," Professor Park said with a warm smile. "I would be honored to share our history of roller coasters with the galaxy. But first, would you like to see how a real roller coaster works?" Dal-Lee's face lit up with excitement, and for the first time, the professor saw something very human in the alien's expression, curiosity and joy mixed with a little bit of nervousness. The afternoon sun was setting outside his window, marking the beginning of what would become one of the most important chapters in human history, all because of a simple invention meant to make people smile. 2 weeks after Dal-Lee's visit, Professor Jin Ho Park and his assistant Era Kim stood in front of a large mirror, checking their formal clothes one last time. They were about to board a special ship that would take them to the Galactic Council's meeting hall. "Are you nervous, Professor?" Era asked as she adjusted her presentation tablet. She had spent days helping the professor prepare their presentation about roller coasters. "A little," he admitted with a gentle smile, "but mostly excited. Just like riding a roller coaster for the first time." The ship that picked them up was nothing like anything they had seen before. It was smooth and silver, and when they stepped inside, It felt like walking into a luxury hotel. Dowley greeted them with a friendly wave. "Welcome aboard," Dowley said. "The council is very eager to meet you. We have representatives from 50 different alien species waiting to learn about Earth's roller coasters." During the short journey, Ara checked their presentation materials one more time. They had videos of every important roller coaster in history, from the simple wooden rides of the 1920s to the modern quantum loop coasters that could change shape while moving. The Galactic Council's meeting hall was a massive room that looked like a giant seashell. Beings of all shapes and sizes sat in curved rows that went up high into the air. Some looked almost human, while others were completely different. Some were made of light, others looked like friendly floating clouds. Professor Park stepped up to the speaking platform, which adjusted itself to his height. His voice was steady as he began to speak. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," he said, "today I want to tell you about one of humanity's most interesting inventions. It all began with a simple idea: the joy of falling safely." The professor showed them pictures of the first roller coasters. The aliens watched with great interest as he explained how people in Russia used to slide down ice-covered wooden slopes for fun. Many of the alien delegates leaned forward in their seats when they saw this. "But why would humans want to feel afraid for fun?" asked a being that looked like sparkling water in the shape of a person. Ara stepped forward to answer. "Fear can be exciting when we know we're safe," she explained. "It's like watching a sunset. We know the sun isn't really going away forever, so we can enjoy the beautiful moment without real worry." The aliens murmured among themselves, clearly fascinated. Professor Park continued the presentation, showing how roller coasters evolved over time. He explained about wooden tracks, steel loops, and magnetic launching systems. When they showed a video of people riding a modern roller coaster, their hands in the air and huge smiles on their faces, many of the aliens made sounds of surprise and delight. "The most important part of any roller coaster," Professor Park said, "is not how scary it is, but how safe it makes people feel while they're having fun. Every track, every turn, every drop is carefully designed to create excitement while keeping riders perfectly safe." At the end of the presentation, a tall, crystal-like being stood up. "Professor Park, we are impressed. Your species has taken something that most would consider dangerous, falling through the air at high speeds, and turned it into a way to bring joy to others." Dowley stepped forward with an announcement. "The Council has a proposal," they said. "We would like to work with Earth to create the first interplanetary roller coaster park, a place where beings from all worlds can experience this unique human invention." Professor Park and Ara looked at each other with wide eyes. This was bigger than anything they had imagined. Their simple presentation about roller coasters was about to change history. "We would be honored," Professor Park said, his voice full of warmth. "After all, the best part of any roller coaster ride is sharing it with friends." The entire council hall filled with sounds of agreement and excitement. As Professor Park and Ara looked out at the gathered aliens, they knew that their love for roller coasters was about to bring the galaxy closer together, one thrilling ride at a time. 1 month after the Galactic Council meeting, the Earth's Historical Amusement Engineering Institute had changed significantly. The once quiet halls now buzzed with activity as aliens from different worlds came to study roller coasters. Dowley worked closely with the Institute's best test pilot, Hannah Choi, to understand how humans experience these thrilling rides. On a bright morning, Hannah stood next to a modern roller coaster, explaining its features to a group of interested aliens. She wore her usual testing uniform, with various sensors attached to monitor her responses during rides. "The most interesting part isn't the speed or the height," Hannah explained, pointing to the track above them. "It's how our bodies and minds react to the experience. When we go down a big drop, our hearts beat faster, but we're smiling at the same time." Dowley recorded everything with great interest. "This is fascinating. In our culture, such physical responses usually signal danger or distress, but humans seek these sensations for enjoyment. The research team had set up special equipment to measure everything that happened during a roller coaster ride. They tracked heart rates, brain activity, and even the tiny changes in facial expressions. Hannah had ridden the test track hundreds of times, helping them gather data. Would anyone like to try the ride? Hannah asked the group. Most of the aliens stepped back nervously, but one small being that looked like a floating light came forward. "I will try," the light being said. "My species has no physical form that can be harmed, so perhaps I can help understand the experience." Hannah helped secure the light being into the special seat they had designed for different alien forms. The roller coaster started slowly, climbing up the first hill. Dali and the others watched carefully as the ride began its first drop. To everyone's surprise, the light being started to glow brighter and change colors during the ride. When the coaster finally stopped, the alien was shining with a brilliant rainbow of colors. "That was remarkable," the light being said. "I felt energy patterns I have never experienced before. It was fun." The word fun came out as if it was a new discovery. Professor Park, who had been watching from his office window, came down to join them. "This is exactly what we hope to learn," he said. "Each species experiences the ride differently, but they all find something special in it." Throughout the day, more aliens tried the roller coaster. Some floated alongside it in their natural forms, while others used special seats designed for their bodies. Each one had a unique reaction, but they all shared one thing: curiosity about this strange human invention. Dali worked with Hannah to document every detail. They noticed that some species enjoyed the high speeds, while others preferred the gentle curves. Some aliens were fascinated by the feeling of weightlessness, while others loved the anticipation of climbing the first hill. "I think I understand now," Dali said to Hannah as they watched another group of aliens experience their first ride. "Roller coasters aren't just about the physical experience. They're about trust, excitement, and sharing moments with others." Hannah nodded, watching as the latest group of riders returned with their own version of smiles. "That's exactly right. Every time I test a new design, I'm not just checking if it works. I'm helping create memories that beings from across the galaxy will share with each other." As the sun began to set, Professor Park looked at his notes with satisfaction. They had learned more about roller coasters in one day of sharing them with aliens than they had in years of studying them on Earth. The simple joy of a thrilling ride was becoming a bridge between worlds, bringing different species together in ways nobody had imagined before. 2 months after the first alien riders tried Earth's roller coasters, the Centauri Alliance called a special meeting. They gathered in a large room at the Earth's Historical Amusement Engineering Institute, where Professor Park's team had been studying how different species enjoyed the rides. Era Kim sat at her desk, surrounded by drawings and computer models of roller coasters. She looked up as Dali entered the room with several other alien representatives. Their faces showed a mixture of excitement and seriousness. "We have a challenge for you," Dali announced to the gathered team. "We want to build roller coasters that can work on different planets. Each world has its own gravity, its own atmosphere, and its own conditions. Can you design something that works everywhere?" Professor Park looked at Ara, who was already reaching for her tablet to take notes. "This will be the biggest challenge in roller coaster history," he said thoughtfully. "We'll need to completely rethink how we build them." Hannah Choi, who had been testing rides with various alien species, joined the discussion. "The main problem isn't just different gravities," she explained. "Each species feels acceleration and movement in their own way. What's exciting for one might be uncomfortable for another." Era stood up and walked to the large screen on the wall. She pulled up designs she had been working on. "I think we need to start with the basics," she said. "What if we used magnetic fields instead of traditional tracks? That way, we could adjust the forces for each planet's gravity." The aliens gathered around the screen with great interest. Dali pointed to part of the design. "This could work," they said. "Our technology can help control magnetic fields with great precision. We could change the strength instantly to match any planet's conditions." Professor Park watched as his young assistant explained more of her ideas. She had drawn a roller coaster that didn't look like anything built before. Instead of metal tracks, it used flowing lines of energy that could change their shape and strength. The seats would float in these magnetic fields. Era continued. We could adjust everything: speed, direction, even how much gravity the riders feel. It would be safe for every species, no matter what planet they come from. One of the alien representatives, who looked like a tall crystal, raised a concern. But how will you test it? Each world has different conditions. It would take years to try it on every planet. Hannah stepped forward with a solution. We can build a test chamber right here, she suggested. One that can copy the conditions of any planet. I'll help test each setting to make sure it's safe and fun for everyone. The room filled with excited discussion as humans and aliens worked together on the idea. They talked about different planets, various species, and all the new possibilities this project would bring. Professor Park smiled as he watched Ara draw more detailed plans. The young engineer's eyes sparkled with determination as she worked on what would become the biggest project of her career. We'll need teams on different planets, Era said, looking up from her designs. Engineers, scientists, and test pilots working together across the galaxy. This isn't just about building a roller coaster anymore. It's about bringing worlds together. Dao Li placed a hand on Era's shoulder. The Centauri Alliance will provide whatever resources you need. This project could change how species across the galaxy interact with each other. It's worth every effort we can give it. As the meeting continued into the evening, the room buzzed with energy and hope. What had started as a simple challenge was growing into something much bigger. A project that would push the boundaries of both human creativity and alien technology. Together, they were about to create something the galaxy had never seen before. 1 year into the interplanetary roller coaster project, the testing facility on Earth had grown into an impressive complex. The main building housed a massive chamber that could simulate the conditions of any planet in the known galaxy. Ara Kim stood before the control panel, making final adjustments for today's important test. All systems are ready, she announced to the observation room, where Professor Park and Dao Li watched with other team members. Hannah, are you prepared for the test run? Hannah Choi sat in the prototype pod, wearing her special testing suit. The pod looked different from any roller coaster car ever built on Earth. It was a smooth, oval shape that floated in the air, surrounded by softly glowing magnetic fields. Ready when you are, Hannah replied, giving a thumbs up to the observation window. She had already tested the system under Earth-like conditions, but today they would try something new. They would simulate the gravity of 3 different planets in one ride. Professor Park pressed the communication button. Remember, Hannah, if anything feels wrong, use the emergency stop. Safety first, always. The test chamber hummed to life. The magnetic fields created a track that seemed to float in the air, glowing with a gentle blue light. Hannah's pod rose slowly from its starting position. Beginning test sequence, Era announced. First simulation, Mars gravity. The pod started moving along the magnetic track. Hannah felt herself becoming lighter as the system adjusted to match Mars' lower gravity. The ride was smooth, almost like floating through water. Changing to Jupiter gravity simulation, Era called out after the first section was complete. The transition was perfect. Hannah felt the increase in weight gradually, but the magnetic fields adjusted automatically to keep the ride comfortable. The pod curved and looped through the air, following the glowing path. Final section, Saturn's moon Titan, Era said, carefully watching all the readings on her screen. The gravity shifted again, and Hannah experienced something entirely new. In Titan's low gravity, combined with their magnetic system, the ride felt like dancing through the air. When the pod finally came to a stop, Hannah was smiling widely. It worked perfectly, she reported, her voice full of excitement. The transitions between gravity levels were smooth. It felt safe the whole time, but still exciting. Dao Li turned to Professor Park with what looked like a smile. This is more than we hoped for. The magnetic field system adapts instantly to different conditions. It could work on any planet. Era pulled up the test data on the main screen. "Look at these readings," she said, pointing to several charts. The system automatically adjusted the field strength to maintain the same level of excitement, no matter what the gravity was. It's like the track thinks for itself. Professor Park walked over to the test pod where Hannah was climbing out. "How did it compare to traditional roller coasters?" he asked. "It's completely different," Hannah explained, still catching her breath. "But in a good way. It feels more like flying than falling. I think beings from any world would enjoy it." The team gathered around Era's control panel to review all the data from the test. Each reading confirmed what they had hoped. They had created something entirely new. The magnetic track system could adapt to any planetary condition while keeping riders safe and comfortable. "We should test it with different alien species next," Dowley suggested. "Each one will experience it differently, but that's what makes it special." As the sun set outside the test facility, the team began planning the next phase of their project. They had solved the biggest challenge, creating a ride that could work anywhere in the galaxy. Now they needed to make sure it would bring joy to every species that tried it. 3 months after the first successful gravity tests, Era Kim made an important discovery. She had been studying data from hundreds of test rides when she noticed something interesting. Each species had its own perfect level of excitement. What made one species happy might be too mild or too intense for another. One quiet evening, while most of the team had gone home, Era called Professor Park and Dowley back to the laboratory. She had been working late, surrounded by glowing screens showing different patterns of data. "I think I found something important," she said, pointing to the main screen. "Look at these patterns. Every species has what I call a comfort threshold. It's like a perfect balance point between excitement and comfort." Professor Park adjusted his glasses as he looked at the data. The screen showed colorful lines that moved up and down, each representing how different species reacted to the roller coaster. "The light beings enjoy quick changes in direction," Era explained. "But the crystal people prefer smooth, gentle curves. What if we could make the track adjust itself for each rider?" Dowley moved closer to the screen, her eyes widening with understanding. "You mean the magnetic fields could change their pattern based on who was riding?" "Exactly," Era said, typing quickly on her keyboard. A new design appeared on the screen. "I've added an artificial intelligence system to the track. It can scan the riders and adjust everything. The speed, the curves, even the gravity effects, to match their perfect comfort threshold." Professor Park sat down slowly, taking in the importance of this discovery. "This isn't just a roller coaster anymore," he said quietly. "It's a completely new kind of entertainment that can adapt to anyone who rides it." They called Hannah to come back to the facility for an emergency test. When she arrived, Era explained the new system to her. "The AI will read your responses during the ride," Era told Hannah as she helped her into the test pod. "It will adjust everything to match what you enjoy most. Every time you ride, it might be slightly different, based on how you're feeling." The test began, and everyone watched carefully. The magnetic track glowed and shifted, creating a path that seemed to respond to Hannah's reactions. When she showed signs of excitement, the track adjusted to maintain that perfect level of thrill. When her heart rate went too high, the ride became gentler. "This is amazing," Hannah called out during the ride. "It's like the track knows exactly what I want." After the successful test with Hannah, they invited various alien species to try the new system. The results were better than they had hoped. Each rider had a unique experience perfectly matched to their preferences. The crystal beings reported feeling exactly the right amount of movement, Dowley said, reviewing the test results. And the light beings said it was the most enjoyable energy pattern they had ever experienced. Professor Park looked at his young assistant with pride. "Era, you've done more than solve our engineering problem. You've created a way for every species to enjoy the same ride in their own perfect way." The team worked late into the night, refining the AI system and planning for larger-scale tests. They knew they had achieved something special, a breakthrough that would make their interplanetary amusement park dream possible. The day of the grand opening arrived at the Alpha Centauri Interstellar Amusement Park. The morning stars shone brightly in the alien sky as Professor Park stood on the speaking platform, looking out at the gathered crowd. Beings from 50 different worlds had come to be part of this historic moment. The park was beautiful. The magnetic tracks glowed with soft colors, weaving through the air like ribbons of light. Each track changed its pattern slowly, showing how it could adjust to different riders. Special viewing areas let visitors watch the rides from all angles. Professor Park adjusted his microphone and began his opening speech. "Welcome, friends from across the galaxy," he said, his voice clear and warm. "Today marks a special moment in history. What began as a simple way to have fun on Earth has grown into something that can bring joy to every species in our galaxy." He gestured to where Era Kim and Dao Li stood beside the main control center. They had worked for 2 years to create this place. The control screens showed the AI systems were running perfectly, ready to give each rider their own perfect experience. "This park has 5 different roller coaster tracks," Professor Park continued. "Each one can change itself to match what you enjoy most. Some of you might like fast movements, others might prefer gentle flows. The tracks will adjust to make everyone happy." Hannah Choi, dressed in her test pilot uniform, stepped forward to demonstrate how the system worked. She sat in one of the floating pods, and everyone watched as the track adjusted itself to her preferences. The ride began smoothly, and the crowd could see how the magnetic fields changed to create the perfect experience. When Hannah's ride finished, beings from different worlds lined up to try the roller coasters. The light beings floated through their special track, glowing with joy. The crystal people moved smoothly along gentle curves that made soft musical sounds. Even species that had never experienced anything like this before found themselves enjoying the rides. Dao Li stood next to Professor Park, watching as more visitors took their turns. "Look at them all," Dao Li said softly. "Everyone is smiling in their own way. Your human invention has become something that brings the whole galaxy together." Era walked among the visitors, checking the systems and helping everyone understand how the rides worked. She stopped to watch a group of young aliens who looked like small clouds try their first ride. Their excited whispers turned to happy squeals as the track created perfect little swirls for them to float through. As the day went on, more and more beings tried the rides. The AI systems learned from each rider, making the experiences better and better. Some visitors rode multiple times, discovering that each trip could be slightly different based on how they were feeling. Near sunset, Professor Park gathered his team together. They watched as the tracks glowed brighter in the growing darkness, carrying happy riders from all across the galaxy. "This is more than just an amusement park," he said to them. "This is a place where different species can share joy together. No matter where we come from, we can all enjoy the simple pleasure of a wonderful ride." The stars of Alpha Centauri shone down on the park, their light mixing with the gentle glow of the magnetic tracks. The sound of happy visitors filled the air, creating a beautiful melody of joy from across the galaxy. 5 years after the opening of the first interstellar amusement park, Professor Park stood in his classroom at the newly established Galactic Engineering Academy. The room was filled with students from 20 different species, all eager to learn about roller coaster design. "Today's lesson is about how roller coasters changed the galaxy," Professor Park said, looking at his diverse group of students. "But first, I want to tell you about something that happened last week." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed the 10 billionth rider enjoying a ride at one of the many interstellar parks that had opened across the galaxy. 10 billion riders, he said with a warm smile. 10 billion beings from different worlds, all sharing the joy of a simple human invention. In another part of the academy, Era Kim worked with a team of engineers from various species. They were designing the next generation of cosmic coasters. The new designs used advanced materials that could change their properties based on the rider's thoughts. The magnetic fields respond to brain patterns now, Era explained to her team. The track knows what you want even before you do. It's like having a conversation with the ride itself. Dao Li, who now served as the head of Galactic Entertainment Safety, visited the academy regularly. Today, they watched as Hana Choi trained a new group of test pilots. The pilots came from different worlds, each bringing their own understanding of what made a ride enjoyable. Remember, Hana told her students, safety and joy go together. The best rides make everyone feel secure while they're having fun. The success of the roller coasters had changed how species across the galaxy thought about entertainment. Many worlds that had never considered creating rides for fun now had their own amusement parks. Each planet added its own special touch to the basic design. One afternoon, Professor Park took his students to visit the original test facility on Earth. The old chamber where they had first tested the magnetic tracks was now a museum. Inside, they could see the first prototype pod that Hana had piloted. "Look how far we've come," he said to his students, "from wooden tracks on Earth to magnetic fields that span the stars." But the most important thing hasn't changed: the smile on a rider's face when they finish a wonderful ride. Era's newest project involved creating underwater roller coasters for ocean worlds. Dao Li helped coordinate with water-breathing species to understand how to make the ride safe and fun for them. Hana tested each new design, adding her experience to the growing knowledge of cosmic coaster operation. As the years passed, the roller coasters became more than just rides. They were places where different species could meet, share experiences, and understand each other better. Young beings from distant worlds would meet on roller coasters and become lifelong friends. Professor Park often ended his classes by taking his students to ride the newest coasters. As he watched them enjoy the rides together, he thought about how a simple idea from Earth's past had helped build a brighter future for the whole galaxy. "Remember," he would tell his students, "roller coasters teach us an important lesson. No matter how different we might seem, we can all share in the simple joy of a wonderful ride through the stars." And so, the story of Earth's roller coasters became a story about bringing the galaxy together, one happy rider at a time.